everyone, and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by eBay Motors Group, with Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson, bringing you all the chatter that matters.
Well, Philip, it's been a busy week for the industry because we've had the Motor Trader Awards, but also the VRA conference. I suspect it's been a mega busy week for you.
It has been a busy week for me, yeah, and you'll find out next week, but I'm off for a few days next week, and yeah.
I didn't get your holiday form.
Did you not?
I didn't know.
Do you know what? I actually nearly didn't book it. I was off and then realised I didn't understand why so many holidays left. And then realised that I haven't actually booked the holidays that I go on.
You've done the old trick, haven't you, of banking those holidays, not taking them over the course of the year.
I did the old trick of actually going and booking holiday without actually booking the time off was the biggest issue that I had, to be fair. Yes. So, have I got so many days? I knew I had a few days to use, but why have I had so many days? I've not booked holiday next week. Okay.
So how did the conference go?
Very, very well. It was a long day, some great speakers. I mean, starting off with what were the words used by Graham Chaplin from the Bank of England. So he started off with an outlook of bleak and sluggish were the two key words to start off the day. So, it started off a little bit solemn.
That could be you and I, Phil. Bleak and sluggish.
Yeah. Then we went into a little bit from SMMT, talking about forecast, and Adrian Pepper from Pepper Media, who is he's a political commentator. You can imagine that one was quite an interesting one, particularly the day before the autumn.
Because it was a quiet week for politics as well, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So trying to talk about the future of politics and what was happening in the political space the day before the autumn statement that everybody keeps calling it a budget was very, very difficult. But no, I mean, when you've got people like Graham Potts from Eden Motor Group and friend of the podcast, John O'Hanlon, who has subsequently had some fun with me on social media, particularly on the back of my poor quality images that I took.
I was going to ask you about the blurred pics.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what I thought it was a camera fault. Anyway, subsequently,
operator error, I suspect.
Yeah, John offered me his hanky to clean the lens on my phone. It was quite good actually to have a fellow hanky holder with John. But no, he subsequently then did take a picture to show me how professional pictures should be taken from a mobile phone if you actually just cleaned your lens. Thank you for that one, John. But no, it was a fantastic day. Feedback has been brilliant. Content was excellent. So, anybody that did attend, then thank you. There are slides available from the day on the VRA website. But yeah, fantastic day. And friend of the podcast again, Mr. Stephen Whitton, who is also the mental wellbeing partner of the association, hosted it or compared it. However, so yeah, he had a little bit of spin to it. It saved my voice for the day as well, which was good.
And in fact, Stephen's joining us for this episode for his regular Menable Moment. In fact, we've got a busy show lined up because we'll also have a preview from our first supplier special episode, and that will be with Nick Pratt from Tjekvik. Tjekvik is the Danish company behind the aftersales self-service kiosks that are being used by a growing number of UK dealer groups, including the likes of Virtue Motors and Group 1. So the full interview is already in your podcast feed, but we all have an extract from that.
Yeah, it was a fantastic chat with Nick about that, because just talking about that efficiencies, and anybody operating in the dealer space, particularly that has an after-sales department, really will understand it, and the way consumer behaviours is changing, and efficiency of your service receptionist, etc. I mean, it was a great system, great catch up with Nick on that one.
And we've already mentioned the Motor Trader Awards this week. So congratulations to all the winners and good luck to everyone shortlisted for a Car Dealer Used Car Dealer Award, which is happening on Monday. So lots going on in awards land at the moment.
Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by eBay Motors Group.
Headlines this week are from Motor Trader, AM Online, Car Dealer and BBC News. Starting with, used car trade values remain unrealistically high despite recent drops, reports Cox. Motorpoint confirms £3.7 million loss as bosses express fears over rapidly falling used car prices. BMW Group is reportedly pushing back agency sales even further. Nissan commits to making new Qashqai and Juke EV models in Sunderland. Amazon to offer Hyundai cars for sale, but only in the US for the time being. And my favourite story of the week, GWM ORA rethinks its quirky car names, and it turns out the funky cat does not have 9 lives. But before we look at the first headline, here's an extract from our conversation with Tjekvik sales director, Nick Pratt. For the benefit of listeners, can you explain how Tjekvik solutions actually improve customer service?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about helping 3 groups. We talk about helping the customer, helping the service team, and helping the overall business. And the real benefit from our system for the customer is providing them with choice. So it allows the customer to choose how they want to check in and out. And they can do that from home because we send them emails, SMSs, and notifications through brand apps. So the night before they arrive, they can actually simply check in from home. So it really does allow them to choose how they want to interact with the dealership, and it saves them time because we all know it's stressful dropping your vehicle off in the mornings. If you've checked in at home the night before, then they can actually use the kiosk to drop their keys off. So it makes it a really quick and easy process for the customer. And of course, because they can do that at the end of the day, it saves them time. So we're really looking to provide more choice for the customer, not forcing them down a self-service route, because it's up to the customer to choose how they want to interact.
I mean, as you say there, Curtis, I mean, that was taken from our first standalone supplier special episode, which is available in your podcast feed from last week. And if you are a dealer, supplier, and would like us to feature your business in the upcoming pod, then please do get in touch with Curtis or I and message us either on LinkedIn or via the email address, which is motortraderadio@yahoo.com.
So first headline of the week is from Motor Trader, and it is used car trade values remain unrealistically high despite recent drops. So this is something that you worked on this week, Phil, and is really based on what you're seeing in the industry as a business. So what actually was behind this release?
Yeah, I mean, clearly we've been taught of seeing the drop in used vehicle values, and with recent conversations over the months with Darren Martin from Cap HPI, and he'll be on again next week with his update on what's been happening in the month of November. But clearly, used car values have been falling, they've been realigning, and clearly it was a case of trying to put a little bit of context around what is happening in the market, why it's happening in the market, and that although the vehicle values are falling, and it's not across every single manufacturer and every single make or model, there are some significant falls, there's some significant pressure in parts of the sector. But clearly the values still, as we've talked about several times, Curtis, remain high compared to pre-pandemic levels where they possibly should be. So the market is realigning, and clearly the dynamic between new and used now is starting to play out. When you start to see £8,000 off new car prices for some makes and models, 4 years 0% starting to enter the market, and that's competing with 10, 11, 12% APRs on used cars at prices that actually the consumer now, tough choices between actually, do I buy a new car or used car when it comes to total cost of ownership? Do I change at all with everything that's happening on the economy? So it's trying to pull out some of that at the minute. And one of the clear points was that, even there is some strength. There is, in that sub 10K, sub 6K market, for those retailable cars, there is some strength there. So it's not doom and gloom right across the market, but there is a bit of a readjustment, a realignment that's starting to appear, which we're just trying to estimate whether that will continue through December into the new year or start to stable out fairly quickly in the new year.
Yeah, it's a point well made, because within the piece you talk about this 4-year period that we've had with minimal depreciation, and how this has fed into and created this trend, but also with oversupply and the return of discounts, which we've mentioned on recent podcasts. So there's a lot of dynamics playing out at the moment, and I mean, let's face it, it's an uncertain time for dealers thinking about what they do in terms of restocking, especially as we approach December, traditionally a quiet month of the year for the motor trade, and as they start to plan January as well.
Yeah, and we're trying to get the message out there to remain calm, remain focused on what is happening in the marketplace, have the conversations, understand what is going on, but not to panic. What we don't need at the minute is fire sales. We don't need desperation. The sector just needs to understand what is happening, why it's playing out, and to keep calm and keep measured on what they do. There's dynamics playing out. You've got dealers that are working on a 40 to 60-day cycle of, aging policies. You've got leasing companies that set residual values 3 and 4 years ago that haven't, their prices are slightly different in terms of the market compared to what dealers have been buying those vehicles at over recent months. So the market's readjusting, but as always, we will get through it. Prices will come down and the market will start to stabilise. So it's a key message at the minute, just to, the old cliche of remain calm and focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Next headline is from Car Dealer, and it does tie in neatly with that first story, because it's Motorpoint confirms £3.7 million loss as bosses express fears over rapidly falling used car prices. So this is really looking at it from a slightly different perspective. This is how it's impacting retailers as those prices start to come down. And this is based on the latest interims from Motorpoint, which cover the first half of the year to the end of September. And it's an underlying loss of £3.7 million. And that's a 6.7% dip on the same period last year, when Motorpoint actually posted a profit of £3 million. So the majority of the loss, which is 3.1 million, was suffered during what's described as a difficult Q1, with the second quarter seeing a recovery to lose just £0.6 million. So it really showing how the year is starting to pan out. But the period also saw significant job losses for the business, which is certainly the biggest car supermarket group in the UK, as it looks to downsize, right-size its business. So redundancies cost around £1 million as part of that.
Yeah, and they talk about the loss of volume that's gone through the business in the first half of the year. We talked about it previously with the challenges they faced around that realignment of the EV values that started last October, that hit the business because they'd made strategic moves into that EV sector in terms of their stock profile at a point where the value started to realign and fall in those back end of last year into this year. So they're facing some challenges, and at the same time, borrowing costs are up, as we know, with interest rates and inflation as it currently plays out. So I think from a business, they have faced some significant headwinds, haven't they, in terms of that income, profitability, and costs for the business.
Yeah, definitely, and because they are listed, the the information that's out there is very detailed. So, just looking at revenue quickly, revenue fell by 23% to £607 million, and that's down from £786 million in the previous comparable period, with bosses saying the decline was down to market headwinds, but also looking at gross margin, that was 6.4%, and that was only slightly lower than last year's 6.6%. But the time taken to prepare a vehicle improved marginally to 8.7 days compared to 8.8 days 12 months ago.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how the second half of their performance plays out when we see the full year.
Yes.
Once we can get through this early readjustment of the marketplace. And on to the next story, remaining with car dealer. Sources reveal BMW Group has pushed back agency sales even further. And this is saying that BMW is said to have delayed agency sales rollout for Mini by a further 6 months. And this is sources tell car dealer that the manufacturer has been watching rivals very closely. And delay means that the agency sales for the German maker won't start until at least 2025. So this is an interesting one, this one, Curtis, isn't it? I mean, you and I were talking about it and what's been happening. Mercedes being one of the first ones to go to agency in the UK that everybody's been watching very closely. Obviously, global brands like BMW will also be seeing what's happening in other markets that have gone to agency as well. But clearly, they looking at why they're pushing this back, giving a little bit more time to understand what's happening in the market, plus possibly some of the the things we keep talking about on a regular basis on the podcast with what's coming to effect next year as well in 2024.
Yeah, definitely. So it is an interesting story, and as we record this, Car Dealer is the only one that's picked it up, and it's because it is based on a source. Looks as though it was a dealer who was talking to Car Dealer on this. So what was due to happen, as you say, was that Mini was going to go down the agency route first, followed by the main BMW brand. But this conversation that Car Dealer has had with the dealer suggests that it's going to be bumped back by at least 6 months, which will actually push it back into 2025. Now, obviously, BMW Group aren't saying anything about this, but I think an inference that we can draw on this is that they're looking very closely at the Mercedes-Benz experience, because, of course, Mercedes-Benz went live at the beginning of this year. There's been pushback by dealers. We saw how they dropped down the ratings, the rankings in the NFDA dealer satisfaction survey, and a lot of that was on the back of this transition to agency. So BMW Group are they're probably just regrouping a little, observing, seeing what's happening, looking at not just the Mercedes experience, but also what's happening with Volkswagen Group as they start to roll out different brands, with Skoda, I think, being the most recent one to adopt agency from this month.
Yeah, and the story does go into a little bit further in terms of what's happening in the market, because they talk about the VW Group sort of they blamed internal systems as to likely cause for their delay. But obviously they'll be rolling out at the minute in 2024. There's a little bit of there about Stellantis, that their move to agency sales in 2024, but has also delayed a while. And Ford is obviously planning similar soon. And there's been a chat with Dash Gupta, the friend of the podcast, who has been working, talking about his time with Ford, trying to help Ford with its plans as well. So there's a lot going on in that OEM space around this transition to agency in terms of the timing of it, and when is right for them in terms of, operationally, are they in a position to move to agency? So, yeah, I'm sure 2024 seems like it's going to be a key year for a lot of the OEMs in terms of the focus and move to agency.
Yeah, you're right. And there's a lovely sign off in this story because car dealer says that of the 47 car brands operating in the UK who they asked, are you moving to agency or not? Only 8 of them categorically ruled out moving to agency completely. So there's plenty of fence sitting there. We don't know for sure, but we can sort of have an educated guess on who is planning to do it and also when that will happen. So I think a lot of this is going to start playing out from next year. So after the break, we'll have the latest Menable Moment from our mental wealth guru, Stephen Whitton.
You're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on Motor Trade Radio, powered by eBay Motors Group. This is your weekly one-stop shop for all the biggest car retailing headlines from across the media, available on demand wherever you are on your podcast feed. Next up is our latest Menable Moment, looking at mental health and wellbeing awareness, issues and best practices across the automotive sector with me, Stephen Whitton. Hi guys, Menable Moments time, hope you're well, and here I am back in the hustle and bustle of a noisy conference facility. Seems to be conference season at the moment. Obviously we had AM Live a couple of weeks ago. Here I am at the National Sales Conference, which isn't specifically automotive, but there's a lot of automotive people here. It's a big event at the Motorcycle Museum in Birmingham, so yeah, looking forward to that. And always love these things. There's a great opportunity to network and meet up with old contacts, get some new ones, make new friends, all of that, and also gain some really useful insights into what's going on in the world and what the sort of near and maybe medium term future looks like. And on that note, I want to particularly mention the VRA, the Vehicle Remarketing Association annual seminar that happened this week. And a massive thanks to Phil Nothard, for getting Menable involved in the VRA, and also for asking me to MC or compare the event on Tuesday this week. And it was awesome. We had some amazing speakers, lots of very passionate people with lots of great insights into what's going on across our industry and where we're all kind of heading. And so great, thanks for that. And if you missed out on that, make sure that if you're in remarketing in any way, shape or form, that you get involved in the VRA and get along to that seminar next year. Anyway, what it did make me think as I came away was that a lot like these conferences always make me think, yeah, there's so much going on. We've got so much change happening and so much actual uncertainty that there must be people out there in our networks that find that quite disturbing in a way, or discombobulating, which is a great word, or find it just unsettling, really. You know, so much change happening, things are going to be very different. The world is sort of gradually and slowly moving to a vision or a model of things that look different to what we've been used to. So it begs the question, how are we helping people navigate that? How are we helping people to look closely at that? And one of the little acronyms that I've picked up already at the NSC today is somebody uses a little process that's with the acronym RICES. So that's RICES. And R stands for recruitment, I stands for induction, C for competence, E for excellence, and S for succession. And I thought, yeah, that's quite a decent little acronym actually, and quite a nice little 5-step. It is 5, isn't it? RICES. Yeah, 5 steps to having a bit of a think about what it is that we can do to help our people navigate change and uncertainty and make sure we're in a good place. But I'm actually going to adopt that a little bit, but I would throw in something else. And I think this makes it really come alive and relevant to mental wealth and business wealth. And that is, let's stick a letter P, for the word purpose. And let's stick that right at the very beginning so that RICES actually becomes prices. And I quite like that. And so, as I say, I'm going to adopt it because I think the key to all of that and to helping people navigate and understand that, you know, we're all in this together, and any change and uncertainty that's coming, we can all navigate it jointly and in support of each other, really does begin with purpose. And that's a clear understanding of what the purpose is of the business that they work in, and maybe even their own individual purpose. Now, you'd expect me to say that from a mental wealth perspective, that's the stuff we can help you with. So if you're interested in having more of a chat about that, you can get hold of me at stephen.whitton@menable.org, or you can find me all over LinkedIn. So on the conference front, got a couple of exciting ones coming up, and I am also now going to give a little shout out. I did do a tiny little bit of a teaser post on it earlier in the week, but by the time you listen to this, I will hopefully be sitting somewhere with a rather nice pina colada in my hand, waiting for the commencement of Suzuki's annual conference and gala ball. The gala ball part of which, and their awards ceremony in the evening, I'm actually hosting and emceeing. So can't believe how delighted I am for that. I made a commitment earlier in the year to just do stuff that gives me joy, and boy, apart from the fact it's in Tenerife in the sun in November, that sort of stuff really does give me joy. So I'm sure you'll see some social media posts on that. You won't be at all surprised. But, you know, again, the point of that is not to gloat or bang on about what I'm doing, but actually just to say, let's help everyone, support everyone, and help them find what it is that gives them joy. Because that, along with that prices analogy, which starts with purpose, is a key factor in them having mental wealth. And like I said, that's what we can help you with. So a few things for you to think about. Have a fantastic weekend. I will do my best. And we will catch up again next time. Take care.
Well, as always, you know, brighten your day up with a bit of Stephen Whitton. I say, you know, he said at the start there, he helped us out at the VRA seminar this week, and added a little bit of pizzazz to the day, a little bit of excitement to the day, but really trying to get across the message around mental wealth, particularly in the automotive sector and diversity, etc. So huge thank you to Stephen for supporting with that, and I know he did really enjoy the day.
Yeah, and if you'd like to get hold of Stephen, you can email him at stephen.whitton@menable.org, and that's Stephen with a PH, or go straight to the Menable website, which is menable.org.
So heading over to the next story, and we're going over to the BBC now, and this is that Nissan to commit to making the new Qashqai and Juke electric models up in Sunderland. Now, this is a fascinating story, isn't it, in terms of, you know, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and more importantly, the bit in there around the battery factory, the battery plant that's up there in Sunderland, of how they're going to move this forward.
Yeah, so as we record this, the official announcement is due on Friday that the new Qashqai and Juke models will be made at the Sunderland site, and that will help preserve 6,000 jobs. So this is such good news for UK car manufacturing and indeed manufacturing across the board. So some welcome long-term commitment there from Nissan. So the investment itself is thought to be in the region of £1 billion and will be supported by a government contribution from the Automotive Transformation Fund. And that particular fund received a £2 billion top up in the autumn statement only this week. Now, it's worth pointing out that Nissan is the only car maker in the UK with its own dedicated battery plant, and that's obviously located close to the car plant, and that really is a game changer, because one of the issues manufacturers face when producing EVs is sourcing batteries. And if the batteries are coming from overseas, then that is a further cost implication, and it also feeds into upcoming post-Brexit rules and regs about country of origin as well. So Nissan will escape all that. But we actually found an interesting part in this story that it's actually a Chinese company, AESC, that actually owns that battery plant with Nissan as its only customer, because this comes out of a joint venture, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. AESC, it was initially a joint battery venture, and this was between Nissan and Japanese electronics group NEC. But that was bought out 4 years ago by Envision, who have taken a 80% share of that business. But Nissan still do own 20% share in that business as well. So even though it's not quite the joint venture initially, clearly that Nissan have still got an equity stake of 20% in that Envision business that own that battery plant. So to your point, a very shrewd move there by Nissan, because if you remember, not so long ago, there was the conversations whether Nissan were going to exit the UK if they didn't get the support from the UK government. But I think, for now, this looks like it's working out very well for them. And you point there around the rules of origin that gets around that, because they've got that direct supply. But clearly there's a huge rational working relationship there between the battery manufacturer and the car plant itself as well, with it up in Sunderland.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good piece of analysis from Simon Jack, the business editor of the BBC. So worth checking out the full story. And we'll put a link to the story in our newsletter on Monday. And we're actually going to stay with the BBC, because the next story is also from BBC News. And the headline there is Amazon to offer cars for purchase on US sites. Now, this got us both thinking, didn't it, Phil? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen this headline before. In fact, I may even have written a similar headline some years ago, because this isn't the first time, is it, that Amazon has offered cars on its website?
No, and it was very swiftly pointed out to me as well, and that Fiat had previously, weren't they? They'd previously gone through Amazon in terms of that vehicle supply. I'm guessing it didn't go well.
No, they don't do it anymore.
They're not doing it now.
Yeah. So this was announced during the week, and the agreement is between Amazon and Hyundai in the US. And the positive aspects of this, certainly for listeners to the pod, is that the cars will be supplied from dealers. So they're not doing a direct deal, Hyundai direct to customers. It is through its US dealer network. And this will actually start next year. And I love this part of the story, because as part of the deal, Amazon's virtual assistant, Alexa, will actually be integrated into new cars starting in 2025. So Hyundai has also signed a multi-year deal for Amazon's cloud services. So we can really see these two businesses working closely now, and this is all part of it. And apologies if I've triggered any of your Alexas.
yes. But yeah, it was actually back in 2016 that Amazon trialed online new car sales for Fiat, and that was offering the Fiat 500, the Panda, and the 500L. And subsequently, I don't know if you remember this one as well, but in 2018, Volvo Car UK teamed up with Amazon in a Prime Now test drive initiative. Do you remember? I think we actually spoke about this one on
I think we did,
the podcast.
Yeah.
And this was trying to offer Prime customers the opportunity to test drive the Volvo V40 and to be delivered to their door via their Volvo dealer. If they wanted to book a test drive in a Volvo. So it's kind of not necessarily a new thing, but it kind of does continue to sort of display the intentions and how they're trying to work together in a new space, in that digital space, of how they can, align things like Amazon and their huge customer base that Amazon has, and how they can engage with that for their brand. So it's going to be interesting whether Hyundai remain the only one in the US, or it starts to roll out into maybe Kia or others. So I know it's been talked about a lot at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It is a toe in the water. They'll see how well it does in the US, and then they'll look at other markets and certainly other brands. So I think we'll be returning to this story at some stage in the near future.
And the final story,
yeah.
I will leave this one to you because you love this. I mean, and it's a great story, great headline.
Yeah, and it does follow up on conversations you and I have had on the pod in recent months. So the headline is from AM Online, and it's a lovely headline as well. The cat loses its funk as Spat forces new naming strategies. So what's this all about? Well, it's GWM ORA. They've reviewed their car names. As you will recall, they are the brand behind the Or a Funky Cat. And it turns out that there's been a trademark spat in the UK, which has prompted GWM into changing its brand naming strategy. So I couldn't actually find out what this spat was about and whether or not there is another funky cat out there, presumably not a car, but something else. But the end result is the Funky Cat will be known from next year as the Aura 03. So they're changing to a straight numbering system, while the what was going to be the next car, which was going to be called the Next Cat. I'm not making this up, Phil, honestly, which is a premium saloon model. That will be launched as the Aura 07. So it's for me is a victory of common sense, because the name was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I've been desperately trying to find out what else is called the Funky Cat.
Yeah.
No such luck yet. Maybe if we find it before we publish the newsletter on Monday, we might put a link to it. But like you say, I mean, it is always questionable in the first instance, wasn't it? And in one way, did it help with the branding in terms of getting that media attention and consumer attention initially? Possibly. Is it the right thing going to numbers? I don't know. I think you and I have been in the industry long enough. We've seen manufacturers use the numeric system previously and changed it, haven't they? We've seen a few manufacturers move to numeric naming and moved away from it. But yeah, we'll see. It could be the the smart hashtag is one of their new cars, isn't it? That's coming. Yep. So yeah, maybe we just don't. I mean, what is a good or bad name for a car these days? We're not quite sure how we could.
Well, you know what? I've got 2 points for you to ponder, Phil. Will existing owners be sent new badges in the post? Do they get to rebrand their cars? And also, will the original Funky Cat now become a collector's item? Who knows?
Yeah, one to think about, I think.
Yeah, you don't sound convinced.
But no, I think, it's, I don't know, who knows? I think, you've got BYD with Build Your Dreams across the back tailgate, haven't you, and things like this. So, how our customers, consumers seeing these brands, do they really care? We'll see as it washes out. But yeah, hopefully we've given you a nice little finish there to think about over the weekend. So yeah, feel free to send your suggestions in as to what may happen to the Funky Cat in the future.
Definitely. But you know what? That's all for now. So many thanks for joining us on the Motor Trade Radio podcast. Until next weekend, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
You've been listening to Motor Trade Radio Podcast, powered by eBay Motors Group. We'll be sharing all the links from this week's headlines on Monday morning. So to make sure you receive them, just subscribe to the free newsletter on our LinkedIn page. Just search Motor Trade Radio Podcast.